Welcome everyone to today's virtual overview and scrutiny committee hosted by Bassetlaw District Council. Given the current challenging situation we all face following the outbreak of COVID-19, new legislation has been approved that enables councils to host virtual meetings rather than requiring members to be present in the committee chamber when making a decision. This keeps everyone safe by maintaining a social distancing etiquette and allows business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. It is very important that councillors can hear each other, so I'll invite members in alphabetical order to confirm their attendance and in so doing test the broadband connection. At the close of this meeting, after a short comfort break, an extraordinary meeting on the Bassetlaw Newark and Sherwood Community Safety Partnership will be held. Okay, I'm going to introduce members now. So Councillor Jack Bowker.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Robin Carrington-Wild.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor David Challoner.
Present, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Cultate.
Good evening, Chair.
Thank you. Apologies from Councillor Debbie Merriweather. And Councillor David Pidwell, I believe you're subbing. Thank you for that.
Indeed, Chair. Good evening.
Thank you. Councillor James Nash.
Good evening, Chair.
Thank you, James. Councillor Claire Plevin.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor David Presley.
Yeah, present, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, David. And Councillor Madeline Richardson.
Present, Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. There's myself, John Shepherd, as Chair, and Councillor Helen Tamblin-Saville.
Good evening, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. And finally, Councillor Mark Watson.
Yes, here, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to introduce the key officers by roll call. So, Stephen Brown, Head of Corporate Services.
Good evening, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Jonathan Brassington, Policy and Communications Manager.
I think Jonathan's present this evening, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Richard Gadsby, Policy and Scrutiny Officer.
Present, Chair.
Thank you, Richard. Liz Whittles, Policy and Scrutiny Officer and Clerk for the meeting.
Present, Chair.
Thank you, Liz. And Linda Dawn, Meeting Facilitator.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Also in attendance, we've got Karen Johnson, Planning Policy Manager.
Present, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. And Will Wilson, Lead Neighbourhood Planner.
Present, Chair.
Thanks, Will. If a number of members lose connection and the meeting becomes inquiry or live streaming for public viewing fails, I shall adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to allow connection to be re-established. Given this is a virtual meeting, there is no corporate responsibility to detail a fire procedure as we ordinarily would. However, I'd like to highlight that this committee is live streamed on social media, so all participants, please be aware of your actions and take appropriate safety precautions from your place of live streaming. Can I please remind members to switch off their microphones when not speaking? Agenda item 1 is apologies. Are there any apologies?
We have received apologies for Councillor Deborah Merriweather and Councillor David Pidwell is a substitute.
Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. Have we received any?
No, we've not received any.
Thank you.
Chair, I need to declare one for item 11 because it's subject to a planning application for determination next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Chair,
Yeah.
do I declare that if I'm on the planning committee?
Sounds like it. Is anybody else affected by that?
Yeah, Councillor Dave Challoner, Chair.
Yeah.
So it's non-pecuniary interest, Chair.
Okay. I don't know if any of the officers want to comment on that.
It would probably be prudent for the members not to be seen to participate in that element of the debate, just for the avoidance of any doubt on the matter. As has been pointed out, it's subject to a planning consideration. So I would suggest that the members absent themselves from the meeting at that point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that advice.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, if anybody else realises that they've got a pecuniary interest, then just shout up, let us know. If during the meeting, oh, sorry, I've just said that. So we're now moving on to agenda item 3, which is minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of January 2021 on pages 5 and 10 of your agenda. Is any member not in favour of the minutes? No, thank you. The minutes are therefore approved. Agenda item 4 is minutes for action and implementation on page 11 and 12. Are there any questions from members? No, thank you. Item 5 is outstanding minutes list, page 13 of your agenda. Liz, could you just provide an update on the progress of the Environment Bill? That's the last item on the list there. Can't hear, Liz.
Elizabeth, thank you.
Sorry, apologies. This item was included as a result of our scrutiny review on recycling, and the Environment Bill that was going through Parliament at that time had specific recommendations in it about recycling rates, the type of waste to be recycled, and universal collections. It had gone through Parliament, it had gone through the committee stage, and it was scheduled for January the 26th to go back to Parliament. And it was announced on the day that it would be delayed to the next Parliament, which commences in May. And the minister said at the time the delay was due to the COVID pandemic, which meant that they would not have sufficient time to debate the bill. This is the third time that the bill has been delayed since it was introduced in July 2018. And as I have said, it will impact on our recycling targets, waste collections, plastics, and so it will impact on some of the actions that we had in the scrutiny review.
Thank you, Liz, for that. Are there any questions from members? No, thank you. Item 6 is forward plan. And sorry, I think I've just got to read out a statement before we discuss any items on this. I have agreed a waiver of publicity for 2 key decision items that will be added to the forward plan for the Cabinet of the 16th of March. They're not listed on the forward plan that's in front of you. Number 1 is Bridge Court updates, key decision 821. This has arisen as we have just received confirmation of external funding for the project from D2N2, LEP, Local Enterprise Partnership, and a number of issues emerging from that approval require Cabinet approval. And number 2, carbon strategy, key decision 872. This has arisen as there are a number of emerging funding streams that require us to have a strategy in place in order to submit bids. And therefore, there is some urgency in bringing forward a report to approve the strategy. Okay. And on this forward plan then, page 15 to 17, just to remind members that as soon as you receive your agenda, you can ask the clerk to contact a relevant officer to provide a briefing note on a particular report on the forward plan, or to invite them or the cabinet member to attend the meeting. Also, members cannot discuss private and confidential decisions in this section of the meeting. Now, we've got Karen Johnson and Will Wilson here to provide information and answer any questions on Key Decision 864, application to designate a neighbourhood area and an associated neighbourhood forum, Retford Town Centre. I'll hand over to Karen to outline the proposals.
Thank you very much, Chair. As members know, the council is very proactive in terms of supporting neighbourhood planning across the district. We're one of the sort of the leaders in the field. Most of our neighbourhood plans are in the rural area. We do have one in Harworth and Burcoats, which is a town, but that's very much led by the parish council. So in terms of the proposal that's going to council on the 4th, the Retford Business Neighbourhood Plan is the very first one of its type that is outside of a town or a parish council area. And what very much pleases us is the way that the business community and the residents have come together to take that proposal forward and to consider lots of proactive ways of enhancing the town centres, which, as we know at the moment, are going through a very sort of serious period of transition. I think in terms of the content of the report, Chair, if it's okay with yourself, I'd probably hand over to Will for some more technical details, if that's okay.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks, Karen, and thanks to members for inviting us this evening. It's great to be able to discuss this particular item. We're enthusiastic about it, and I know we need to be impartial about how we approach it, but I think in terms of our support for neighbourhood planning in the district, this is something new, and it is good to be able to discuss it. We pride ourselves on being responsive to situations as they arise, and yes, we've got quite a lot of neighbourhood plan areas already designated in the district. There are 31, but yeah, as Karen has pointed out, this is the first time that we've broached into the urban area in maybe a different way, and that with the neighbourhood plans that we have at present, they all follow the existing geography of parish boundaries. This case in Retford is different. Retford being an unparished area, that there aren't those boundaries to follow. We're heartened to see that the legislation provides for that to be considered as part of defining a neighbourhood area, but it does make it slightly more complicated. Is that the discussion about where the boundaries are going to be needs to be debated. What we will reassure is that that discussion has been going on for some time in Retford. The Retford Business Forum have been key in that process, and we've been assisting to help discuss where might the boundaries be appropriately drawn for a planning strategy for Retford Town Centre. And as Karen's pointed out, this has brought a lot of different interests together, perhaps for the first time, which is, again, really great to see that how the sort of synergy of different interests can come forward and shape the future of Retford. So in terms of the legislative process, as this item includes two specific parts, one of those being the designation of the area and the other being designation of the neighbourhood forum. In practical terms, the neighbourhood forum is standing in for what a parish council would ordinarily do in a neighbourhood plan area. So in this case, because there isn't a parish council, a specific designated body needs to be created, and there are rules for how that is constituted. It needs 21 members at least, and it needs to have people represented from resident groups, business groups and elected representatives from that area. And we have been able to satisfy all of those requirements in part of the application that we received on the 18th of December. So in terms of the requirements that the legislation has put forward to the District Council, those have been met. A consultation was undertaken for 7 weeks from the 21st of December through till the 8th of February. And that determination of that application has recently concluded in readiness for that to be discussed by members on the 4th of March. So in terms of the process, it has been new to us. We're learning all the time as well, but we're reassured that there is a formula in place to actually address the needs of other areas other than parishes, so that they can all contribute and take part in neighbourhood planning, which for us, I think it's enthusing to see that communities do want to shape the district, that they don't just want to leave it to us at an overarching level. They want to provide that local level of detail, which I think is what we're enthused about to see for Retford Town Centre. What is that going to look like? So I think in terms of the principles, that's exactly where we sit, but very happy to take questions.
Are there any questions from members?
Chair, I've got one, Dave Challoner.
Thank you.
Hiya, Will and Karen. Thanks for taking time to come to the meeting tonight. Will this project strengthen the local plan that Bassett Law is obviously in part of putting in place now? And if this is successful with Retford, is it something that can be adapted and taken on by Worksop?
Thanks, David. Good to see you. Yes, in terms of the strategy, it is designed as an integral part of the local plan. So the local plan is the umbrella that covers the whole district. The aspiration is that neighbourhood plans and other strategies that the District Council has will provide the local level detail underneath. And so we're enthused if communities do want to come forward and provide that detail. It helps us and it helps the communities to feel invested in the strategy as a whole. And maybe Karen will come in terms of Worksop.
I think just in terms of the Worksop angle, I think one of the benefits of neighbourhood planning is that it can be very much tailored to meet local circumstances and local needs. But not every area will benefit from a neighbourhood plan, and there is other tools that can be used to adapt and to help town centres grow and reposition themselves. So as members will be aware that there is a master planning process underway for Worksop Town Centre, which is possibly a more appropriate way of repositioning Worksop Town Centre. Both will work complementary to each other, and both will sit within as well as side within that umbrella of the local plan. But it's entirely right that both are dealing with Worksop specific issues and Retford specific issues in their own ways.
Thanks for that, Karen and Will. Just the other side of things, obviously, with having a neighbourhood plan in place, obviously it will increase a SIL contribution. Now, obviously, the thing is what's always been like the sticking point from a planning side of things was because Worksop and Retford haven't got this neighbourhood plan in place, the SIL contribution were always 15%. If it is successful and put in place and it's been seen to be a benchmark, will the SIL contribution go up to 25%, which would mean that there's more availability for investment in the town centres?
You go, Karen.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Challoner. Once the business neighbourhood plan is made, then the contribution would go up to 25%. The precise sort of mechanism for how that would work, that still needs to be agreed, because as Will said, this is the first time that we've done one of these for the urban area. So the mechanism still needs to be sorted out and agreed, and we'll take that through Cabinet in due course. But the actual principle is very much the same as with any other neighbourhood plan.
Thanks, Chair. No more questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members for Karen or Will?
Chair, you have Councillor Naish and then Councillor Preston have asked to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Naish.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, well, I just wanted to understand, obviously you'll know I'm heavily involved with the neighbourhood plan. Is this following broadly the same process with site allocations? I mean, how does that actually logistically work in a town centre where we're not necessarily looking at driving housing but other types of activity? Or is the emphasis still on looking to turn commercial dwelling into residential dwelling? So I was just wanting to understand a bit more about the balance of focus really for the neighbourhood plan. But on that, I'm very excited to see that we are taking this concept to the town centres, because I think it is really important.
Yeah, hi James. In terms of principle, it will follow the same process as any other neighbourhood plan. I think the joy is that it can reflect the specific issues in the area. And so what we won't be seeking to prejudice what those are, they will come from the community. So there is the option there to explore residential development options. It may be that there is more of a focus on commercial development because of the nature of the area. And I think one of the considerations that we need to have as a district council is, are we determining this as a business area? That is one of the things that the legislation asks, and I would anticipate that would be the case as what we would be recommending, because it is a predominantly business focused area. That then in turn brings into play one of the key differences, that if it is a business area, there are two parallel referenda at the end, one for residents and one for business interests. So it does provide some sense of traction for business interests to get involved in that process and to make sure that it represents what they want the town centre to be, as well as residents. And so that sense of investment is there. And it may say how the boundaries are drawn will also bring in interest. There has been debate about whether Kings Park should be as part of the neighbourhood area. It's not proposed to be at the minute, and that was intentional as part of the strategy, because it was seen as that may change the dynamic of the interests that were going to be discussed. So yeah, it follows the same format, but it will respect the specific nature of that area.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
Thanks, Chair. Just going to ask on that, John, because we were looking ourselves about Sandy Lane as a neighbourhood plan. Is that the same principle then, Will or Karen? We can do that.
Yes, absolutely, Dave. There are options. And I think it's said, with this being the first non-parish area that we've explored in Bassetlaw, we're enthused. Other districts and other council areas do have neighbourhood plans of this type. So we've been looking to them to see how they define their geography. The main thing is if it's not a parish area, it is this twin track approach of define the boundary and have a group that will administer it. And if you can do that and satisfy the regulations, yes, a neighbourhood plan is a quite plausible route to build that strategy.
Well, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Will.
Thank you. Thanks, Will. That's interesting. It's good to see local people having more of a say in that process. Excellent. Are there any other questions for Karen and Will? Are there any other questions on any other items on the forward plan?
Just to say, you mentioned the Bridge Court one, Chairman, which will be on the cabinet, as you said. I think that's a wonderful thing for workshop. And I think we ought to congratulate everybody that's been involved in that to get Bridge Court up and running and got the money ready to do it.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, that is excellent news. The Bridge Court development and that the funding is coming through. So good to see that on the forward plan.
Chair, can I ask while they're here, can we get an update from Karen and Will on key decision 543 on the local plan?
Absolutely. Yes, so the as members will know, we did a consultation in from November to January on the local plan, and that ended on the 20th of January. We've had just over 800 responses, which is the highest by far that we've ever had to a local plan consultation. And what was most pleasing from our point of view was that it was a solely virtual planning consultation this time as well. And that was purely because of the COVID restrictions that were in place. So it's really pleasing to see that even in the COVID circumstances, that the council was able to sort of fulfil its plan making duties and engage so widely with residents as well. We didn't just deal with things via technology and through the MS Teams, which is the sort of the way that we did the consultation events. We also had a dedicated local plan hotline where residents could phone in and speak to officers and get sort of extracts of documents sent out to them, so they could engage in that way as well. And we did make extremely good use of social media, so all of the council's social media platforms were used to their full extent as well, and that was another way of engaging engaging residents and the community. In terms of next steps, we have to sort of follow a process now moving forward. So I'm not able to give members any sort of feedback on what the comments were. We look at the comments in the round and then sort of make recommendations to members in due course about what changes should be made to the local plan. But we are very much on schedule now to go to the next formal stage of the local plan, which is the publication version. And that's likely to be in the summer of this year. So that is something that we're very keen on meeting that target.
Thanks, Karen, and thanks for the question, James. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, do you think we've got more responses because it was virtual and using a variety of means rather than the traditional means of consultation?
I think it was possibly easier for people to engage because they could do it from the comfort of their own homes, and always consulting, should I say it, in the winter is tricky anyway, because it's not always easy for people to either want to come out when it's dark or when it's it's the bad weather and that kind of thing, and people were able to just log on, have an hour involved in the consultation and then log off again. And I think the consultations also took a lot of the emotion out of planning consultation as well. They are by nature quite an emotive subject, and actually it was a relatively anonymous process if residents wanted it to be that way. And it also meant that residents that were maybe not as comfortable with public speaking could still engage, and they could use the chat function on Teams and be part of that process and not feel under any pressure to speak or to be maybe to confront their neighbour on a particular issue and that kind of thing. They could be relatively anonymous, and so we were finding that the discussion was very much more about detailed planning issues rather than some of the sort of wider ranging issues that we usually get when we deal with face-to-face events. So from that point of view, we felt it was a massive benefit. And possibly the additional benefit was that we were able to keep officers and the community as safe as possible and have the consultation at the same time, which obviously was of paramount importance during the COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Karen. I think we lost a bit of what you said, but I think we got the sense of it. Thank you.
Karen, sorry, Chair, can I just quickly check? Karen, does that 800 include the 400 plus on Ordsall, or is that 800 plus the 400 that did the separate consultation on Ordsall?
No, that's a very good point. That includes about 460, I believe, residents that engaged through the local plan consultation through a member-led community survey in the Ordsall area. So that's all been taken into account and then will be fed into the evolution of the local plan.
Thank you. I'll just ask again, are there any more questions on the forward plan? On any items? No, thank you very much. And thank you, Karen and Will, for attending, for that explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As usual, we say you're welcome to stay, but equally, I'm sure you may have other things to do tonight. Anyway, thank you for attending. We now move to item 7, key decisions of Cabinet of the 11th of February, page 19 to 25. Starting on page 19, we have Property Asset Management Plan 2021/22, key decision 852. Cabinet resolved that the Property Asset Management Plan 2021/22 update is recommended to Council for approval on the 4th of March 2021. Does anyone have any questions on this Cabinet key decision? Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain? That key decision is endorsed then. Thank you. And the next one is the Council Tax Reduction Scheme 2021/22, key decision 853. The Cabinet resolved that 1, the Council Tax Reduction Scheme 2021/22, as set out in the report, brackets, income branded scheme, close brackets, be approved subject to any further prescribed legislation changes and annual upratings notified by the government prior to 1st of April 2021. And 2, the report be presented to the next appropriate council meeting for consideration. Does anyone have any questions? Is anyone against endorsing this key decision or wishing to abstain? Well, that key decision is endorsed. Thank you. And the next one is the Treasury Management Policy. We're now on page 20. Policy and Strategy 2021/22 to 2023/24. Key Decision 854. Cabinet resolved that the following key elements be approved and recommended to Council on 4th of March 2021. 1. Treasury Management Strategy 2021/21. Okay, so I should say 22, I think, and to 2023/24, incorporating the borrowing strategy and the annual investment strategy, Appendix 1. Number 2, the capital prudential indicators and limits for 2021/22 to 2023/24 contained within section 2.1. 3, the capital financing requirement as detailed in section 2.2. 4, the affordability prudential indicators as set out in section 2.3. 5, the minimum revenue provision policy statement as contained within section 2.5, which sets out the Council's policy on MRP. And 6, the authorised limit prudential indicator contained within section 3.2. And 7, the maturity structure of borrowing as set out in 3.3. Okay, does anyone have any questions about this Cabinet key decision? Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain? No, thank you. That key decision is endorsed. And the next one is a general fund revenue budget 2021/22 to 2025/26, key decision 855. Cabinet resolved that Cabinet recommends the following to full Council on 4th of March 2021. Number 1, the budget for 2021/22 and future years, together with the associated comments from the Audit and Risk Scrutiny Committee on the 9th of February 2021, be recommended for approval. And number 2, a council tax increase of £5 for Band D equivalent properties for 2021/22. 3, the declaration that there will be a £0.328 million deficit on the collection fund for 2021/22, as summarised in paragraph 3.44 of this report, be noted. And 4, the business rate figures be noted as shown on the NNDR1 form regarding the net yield from local business rates, the cost of collection allowance, the amounts retained in respect to renewable energy schemes, the declared surplus at the end of 2020/21. 5, that delegated authority be given to the Cabinet Member for Finance for addressing any issues arising from the Business Ratepayers meeting in February 2021. 6, that delegated authority be given to the Head of Finance and Property to deal with amendments to the budget for any changes to Drainage Board and Parish Town Council precepts. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
John, can I make a comment? It's Mark here.
Yep, Mark, Councillor Watson.
On point 2, I've raised this issue before about the way officers write these documents. when it says a council tax increase of £5 for Band D, in that sentence it doesn't give any context of what percentage increase that is on the current council tax for Band D.
Yeah.
And plowing through 20 pages of the Cabinet papers, I see it's 2.8%. If we could encourage the officers writing the documents to always put a percentage or what the total figure is in there, just so that anybody reading it can get an idea of the context of it. It provides extra clarity. They know the figure of 2.8%. It's in their head. They've already written it in the main document. And if they can always provide either the total figure or the percentage involved, that's always helpful for interpretation purposes. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
Chair, Councillor Naish would like to ask a question.
Yeah, Jones, Councillor Naish.
Chair, it's more of a point really. Under point 6, it references the drainage boards. Councillor Richardson will be aware that I've got some questions really about the drainage board. There's been an agreed increase of 6% on the money that the council is paying towards the drainage boards. They do some excellent work, but I think there's a need as part of the flood review to get closer to the work that's being done. So I have referenced that through to Councillor Richardson, but given it's referenced here as part of the finance points here, I just thought I'd call that out and make colleagues aware that I have suggested that we get closer to that work as part of the flooding review, given that that's something that we're looking at the moment.
Thank you.
Chair.
Councillor Coulthard.
Yeah, apologies, my hand function, it was there last time, it's gone. Chair, I do have some concerns, and I'd like to reiterate there what Councillor Watson said as well. I know trick in retail were to use numbers like £5, you know, percentages, you know, are really, really important to understand context. I read through the document, and the biggest concern, this isn't attacking, this isn't blame, it's a fact. The increase in council tax and business rates for me will be to an extent unpredictable. Who knows how business is going to recover post-pandemic? It may be good, it may be bad. Rolling on to that is points 5 and 6. The delegated authority be given to the Cabinet Member for Finance for addressing issues arising from the ratepayer meeting. I don't know enough about the procedures and policies in place around what powers they would be. But what would the council, cabinet minister, what delegated powers do they have after that meeting? And if I'm satisfied, you know, I might be fit, you know, I might have to put the truth, but I don't know what I'm agreeing to.
Okay, what we obviously no one's requested, you know, in advance a finance officer to be present to answer that question. We can ask for a written answer. I don't know if any of the officers want to comment on that.
Sorry, Chair, I don't think any of us present tonight could deal with those particular questions of a very specific nature. So go along with the route that you suggested there.
Yeah, so we'll refer that question on to David Hill, Head of Finance.
Chair, Councillor Tamlin-Saville has hand raised for a question. Thank you.
Helen, Councillor Tamlin-Saville.
Thanks, Chair. Firstly, I'm not sure if this is an issue, but obviously I've got a question about point 5, but it's probably worth pointing out that I am a business ratepayer. I don't know if that's an issue, but just to mention that, I maybe should have mentioned that earlier. But what I wanted to raise was, it was more of a communication thing, really, and I did raise it last year as well. Appreciate I could have put the question in earlier, so I'm not expecting an answer right now. But the business rates payer meeting is on this Thursday, the 25th of February. I did raise last year that it didn't seem to be terribly well communicated that it was happening. I have found it on the news section of the Bassett Law website, but unless you know where to look, you probably wouldn't find it. Is that something that it can be considered that ratepayers are emailed or it goes on social media, etc.?
Thank you for that comment. Yes, we'll note that and pass that on to David Hill as well. Okay. Are there any other questions on this item, this key decision of Cabinet? No. Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain?
I'll be abstaining, Chair. Thank you, Councillor.
That's Councillor Coulter. Thank you. Okay, that decision is now endorsed. And Capital Investment Strategy 2021/22 to 2025/26, key decision 856, the Cabinet resolved that approval of the Capital Investment Strategy 2021/22 to 2025/26 be recommended to full council on 4th of March 2021. Any questions on this key decision? Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain? Thank you. That key decision is endorsed. We're actually on page 23 now, the Budget Monitoring and Capital Programme Update Report to 31st of December 2020, key decision 861. The Cabinet resolved that 1, the position with regard to revenue and capital budget monitoring be noted. 2, the other variations to the 2020/21 capital programme be approved, as discussed in paragraph 3.28 and detailed appendix 3 of the report. 3, proposed resourcing of the capital programme and the level of capital receipts currently available to fund any further capital expenditure is noted, paragraphs 3.34 to 3.36. 4, the quarterly update on performance against the approved Treasury Management prudential indicators for the period ending 31st of December 2020, paragraph 3.49 refers, be noted. Does anyone have any questions on this key decision? Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain? That key decision is endorsed. Children and Young People's Plan 2021 to 2025, key decision 866. Cabinet resolved that the interim report be approved and for the development of a revised Children and Young People's Plan 2021 to 2025 be presented to Cabinet later in the year. Does anyone have any questions on this decision? Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain?
Chair, I believe Councillor Presley may have indicated.
Thank you. Councillor Presley?
Just to say the Children's and Young People's Plan, I endorse that very well. It's a really good thing for this council to be doing, Chairman. I think we should support this all the way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, to read the detail of that.
Yeah, very good, Chairman. Very good.
Very good. Thank you for that comment. And finally, on page 25, we've got the Community Energy Procurement Scheme, key decision 863. The Cabinet resolved that the Council will work with iChooser to deliver a collective fuel switching scheme to households in Bassetlaw. And 2, Chief Executive be given delegated authority in consultation with the Deputy Leader to negotiate with iChooser to sponsor the best tariff it can achieve for local residents. Does anyone have any questions on this decision? Is anyone against endorsing this decision or wishing to abstain?
Sorry, Chair, I was on mute. I was just, it was
Councillor Naish, yeah.
No, it was just on the concept of community energy. I would really like to see the council to look into local area energy plans. So we talk a lot about neighbourhood plans, and I think that's a really good thing. But there's minimal value in driving lots of housing if that isn't supported and underpinned by the right energy infrastructure, which includes looking at things like community energy. So while I'm more than happy to endorse this, I would like to maybe push the message back to Cabinet to say, I think we need to now move the idea of community energy procurement, energy strategy forward, and really think about that as a district to make sure that we're making good green investments in the energy production across the ward. So I'd just like to put back the idea of local area energy plans and seeing if that's something that we can be looking to embrace over subsequent months and years.
Thank you, James. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think we could pass on that comment to the relevant Cabinet member. Okay, we now move on to item 8, waiver call-in, and just to refresh what I said earlier, there was a wave of publicity agreed for the Bridgecore update, key decision 821, and for the carbon strategy, key decision 872, for the reasons previously stated. Okay, item 9 is possible call-in of decisions made by Cabinet or Cabinet members. There are none. And item 10D, we have the Overview and Scrutiny Committee Work Programme 2020/21, pages 27 to 34. So I'll pass over to Richard Gadsby to outline the report and answer any questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So in terms of the update on the work programme, members will note that we are approaching the conclusion of this municipal year. So after today's meetings, there's just one meeting left in the work programme for this year. So just in terms of general updates, obviously ongoing scrutiny reviews, the flooding task and finish group is meeting in March to talk to officers from the county council. Members will note that a survey went out to elected members and parish councils, and I'm doing the analysis for that, and I'll be presenting that to the next group. So that is ongoing. We've also had a call of evidence to a number of other agencies, such as the internal drainage boards and the Canal and Rivers Trust as well. So I'm sure members will be interested to see what comes back on that front. So that really is the update. Obviously, following this meeting, we have the annual review of the Bassett Law, Newark and Sherwood Community Safety Partnership, and that update will be on street homelessness. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Richard. Questions from members? If we have any. Okay, if there are no further questions, I can't see anybody indicating. The recommendations are 7.1, the committee agree the approach to the work programme as set out in the report, and 7.2, the committee note the update from the flooding task and finish group. 7.3, members are advised to contact the Policy and Communications Unit should they have any queries regarding future meetings. Is anyone against that course of action or wishing to abstain? The recommendation is carried. We now move on to section B, items for discussion in private. Can I please confirm that in accordance with Part 1, Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, after considering the public interest test as set out by the officer in the body of the report, members agree that the following items of business involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 2 and 3, and therefore in accordance with section 100A of the Act, the press and public be excluded from the meeting. Is anyone not in favour of that course of action? No, thank you. So, Castor, can we stop the live stream?